In this part, we're going to examine 8 reasons why a financial quant should consider learning a computer language. There are numerous reasons and justifications, but I'd like to focus on these 8. And there's the issue of being a conformist versus nonconformist, a clear and crisp understanding of a model. If you can build the model, you understand it. A build versus buy. Oftentimes, it's argued it's cheaper just to buy it versus build it. We'll look at that. Why not just do everything in a spreadsheet? I believe anybody who has any experience with the spreadsheet understands that eventually it just becomes unwieldy and very difficult to manage. Why not just use a symbolic language? Learning to code improves your communication with internal software developers. That has probably been one of the biggest value adds that I've had in my consulting experience. Your ability to code will make you a much more efficient debugger, and the ability to code disciplines your thinking so that you can take very complicated problems, decompose them into parts, get each part right, and then put it all back together. And so let's consider first conformist versus nonconformist. Coding is a unique language, and in our case here, we'll be focused on the language R. Many of you will probably be trying to do this in Python. I'm just flat too old to learn another language. But it should not be that difficult to translate this material over to another language. It turns out there's a whole lot of different ways to express your ideas. If you think of a deck that you present to clients, typically a PowerPoint presentation or something along those lines, it's a way of expressing your ideas, various valuation methodologies, and the data. You collect data, you do analysis, you do these dynamic graphics and these sorts of things. The ability to code in R expands your means of expression in numerous ways. Improves software tools, speeds the process of creative development. And so what I would like to do, and as you work through this material, is to drastically expand your quantitative finance capacity. So as we begin to explore the conformity or nonconformity, I want to paint in your mind, so to speak, that a financial quant is really an artist. I want to give you permission, not that you really needed it, to go out and create your own valuation model or be creative in developing your own static risk measures or dynamic risk measures. It turns out that you should unleash your creativity in so many different ways. And so the goal here is really just to introduce you to a whole bunch of different paintbrushes, different paints, different kinds of applications and problems, and turn you loose in this global financial world to apply your skills. And so the second benefit of learning to code is it gives you a clear and crisp understanding of the particular task at hand. A computer program, I like to say, is one that is 99% correct is 100% wrong. And often you don't know that you have a bug in the code until you're under stressed market conditions or your book of business has grown rapidly. And so the ability to write code gives you the audit capacity of software developers in your firm. It allows you to help them better understand how to be creative. Textbooks in quantitative finance and financial derivatives, even in coding, often provide only a 30,000 foot perspective on financial models. And so the goal here is to bring you much more closer to the ground, flying at, say, 500 feet and therefore we're going to see a lot of different hills and valleys and trees and power lines and all kinds of problems. For example, a plain vanilla interest rate swap we'll see later has very unique payment frequencies, like quarterly or semi-annual. It counts days differently depending on the contract. You might count the actual number of days between two payment dates, and you divide that by 360 days in a year. Or you could just assume there's 30 days per month on a 360-day year. And so a plain vanilla interest rate swap, or what is now known as a vanilla swap, actually is quarterly pay on the floating leg on an actual 360-day count, and it's semi-annual pay on a 3360-day count on the fixed leg. It turns out that this payment frequency and day count has a significant impact on value and insight often missed in high-level textbooks. The third issue is build versus buy. It turns out if you build your own models and risk systems, it takes time and energy. You're going to have errors, but you develop somebody at your firm fully understood the models that are built. And so you have a built-in expertise if you take the time to build your own models. If you go out and buy your models, you pay what I call an immodest fee. It's great. Somebody else is held liable. It's fast, but no one internal to your organization understands model nuances. It's simply a black box. Bloomberg is a good example. Early in the life or in the development of Bloomberg, I was on the faculty at the University of Alabama. We were one of the first universities to get Bloomberg, and I remember routinely finding mistakes and errors in their calculations, and then realizing that part of the way organizations that develop software and put it out there clean their software is they just simply put it out there, and they rely on their users to let them know where the problems are. And so if it's a black box, you also, all you really know is what kind of inputs to feed it and how you should interpret the outputs, but you really don't know how the calculations are made. If you take the time and energy to build your model, if the world changes tomorrow and you need a different model or you need to modify your existing model, it's relatively straightforward because somebody in the firm understands it, knows how to deploy it, and you can get back up and running. Spreadsheets, often the argument is made, well, we can just do this analysis in spreadsheets. I think we've reached the point where most people realize that that's just simply silly. It's just not possible given the large and complex problems that we can now easily address with R on a laptop computer. Spreadsheets are slow and cumbersome. And the computer language allows you to decompose large complex problems into component pieces, and it's fast and flexible, easy to entertain changes. And one thing I would recommend is when you develop R code within an organization, you need to plan about that. However much time it took you to develop the code, you should take that same amount of time to write very clear, readable documentation so that somebody coming behind you can figure out what you were doing. One argument I hear often is why not just use a symbolic language and like Mathematica or some of these other symbolic languages out there. One challenge is it's not portable. If you don't have that symbolic language, then you can't use somebody else's code. It relies on the existence of the symbolic language provider. If they go out of existence, you're in trouble. The computer language like R is very portable. It relies only on the existence of language, not a specific compiler. Improved communication. Internal software developers don't understand the language of finance. I remember once trying to implement a swaption valuation model when the swaptions first started trading. And I really felt for those internal software developers They didn't know what an option was, much less what a swap was, and even further out of their understanding was a swaption. When I delivered them back then, it was C code, basically illustrating the inputs, illustrating the expected outputs. They had it up and running in a very short period of time. Advanced quantitative finance applications are often fraught with nuances. Remember, this is a social science. Running code can help communicate these nuances very clearly, such as day counting and compounding frequencies. Financial analysts can better communicate with internal software developers if they understand a computer language. You become much more valuable to your organization. The ability to learn a language like R allows you to debug code that somebody else wrote. Quantitative finance models are complex. They need to be fast. They often use real-time data, multidimensional, advanced math. Therefore, bugs are rampant. And so I've served on boards of different companies. And because I can develop in R, often when a quant or somebody's presenting results, I will ask them, please email me your R code. And it's amazing how that changes. The fact that the quant team knows that somebody at the board level is actually reviewing the code. And often I'll build my own prototype code just to check to make sure it's working correctly. A financial analyst is well suited to efficiently debug the software that's built within the organization. The final very significant advantage is in improved disciplined thinking. The ability to take a very complex problem and break it down into smaller, manageable pieces. You'll develop skills to achieve the optimal level of decomposition. You'll develop skills in being able to solve very complicated problems, and you'll become much more valuable and confident in the work that you do. So in summary of chapter 1, remember finance is a social science. We're going to be focused a lot on the mechanisms within valuation, static risk management, and dynamic risk management. But don't forget, you have the human agency issue, and that is a significant issue within the world of finance. We made the 8 compelling reasons for learning a computer programming language. And my hope is that you embrace the perspective of being an artist within this quantitative social science known as finance.